Victor Blackwood stood by the window of his penthouse, staring out at the sprawling skyline of New York. The city was alive in endless dance of lights and movement, with the golden glow of sunset reflected off the glass buildings. But inside Victor, there was only silence. He had everything: money, power, success, and the admiration of millions. But he was alone. His empire was built on hard work, calculated risks, and relentless ambition. Blackwood Enterprises was a household name, but no one knew the price he had paid to get there. He had spent years building his business, but when it came to personal connections, real meaningful connections, he had come up empty. Victor exhaled, running his hand through his hair and looking down at the papers scattered across his desk. Every document, every decision he made was meticulously crafted, but despite all the success, it all felt hollow. He glanced out the window again. Power and control were things he could measure, but love, connection, that was a whole different matter. He was just about to turn back to his work when the door opened. Lily Adams stepped into the room, her presence filling the space. She wasn't just another face in the crowd, another one of the women who had come to admire him. Lily was different. She was confident, poised, and refused to bow down to his wealth or influence, and that intrigued him. "Victor, Lily, I think it's time we start discussing the project details." Lily, without looking up, still reviewing documents. "I've gone over everything. There are a few things we need to change. We can't keep doing things the same way." Victor, raising an eyebrow, slightly surprised. "You think I should change the plan?" Lily, smirking. "Not change it, rethink it. We're talking about innovation, Victor, not just stability." Victor, leaning back, amused. "So you think I should abandon everything that's worked for me?" Lily, "I'm not saying abandon everything. But if we keep going the same way, we won't reach our goals. You can't keep holding on to the past." Victor felt a strange pull at her words. She wasn't intimidated by him, nor did she seem to care about his status. She was just here for the work, and that was something he couldn't ignore. Days passed, and their professional relationship became increasingly complicated. The more Victor saw of Lily, the more intrigued he became. It wasn't just her intelligence that drew him. In it was her ability to challenge him, to make him feel things he didn't want to feel. One evening, after a particularly tense meeting, they found themselves alone in his office. The night had settled in, and the lights from the city reflected off the glass walls, creating an almost surreal glow in the room. They sat across from each other, and despite the professional setting, the air between them was charged with something else, something undeniable. "Victor, Lily, I don't understand you. I can't figure out what it is about you. You're not afraid of me, are you?" Lily, looking up from her documents, eyes locking with his. "Afraid of you? I'm not afraid of anyone. You've built your empire on control, Victor. But I'm not here to play your game." Victor, a slight smirk. "And why is that? You could have anyone else in this company at your feet." Lily, "Because I'm not here for you, or your money, or your power. I'm here to do my job. I don't need anything else." Victor felt a stir inside him, a feeling he wasn't used to. Admiration mixed with frustration. She didn't bow down to him like everyone else. She didn't want his money. She didn't care about his power. And it left him wondering, what did she want? Victor, leaning forward, "You really think you can just challenge me like this and get away with it?" Lily, calmly, "I don't care what you think, Victor. I'm here to help. But if you want me to walk away, I'll do that too." As the days passed, the undeniable chemistry between them only intensified. They had moments of professional success, but every time their eyes met, it felt like something else was happening. Something neither of them could control. One evening, after an especially heated discussion about the project, Victor found himself standing by the window of his office again, staring out at the city. The night was quiet, the streets glowing beneath. The streetlights, the silence in the office felt different this time, more charged, more full of potential. Lily walked in, as usual, her presence strong and confident, but tonight, something was different in the air. Victor, quietly, not looking at her. I don't know what to do with all this, Lily. Lily pauses, looking at him. With what? Victor, with you, with this ... connection. I'm not used to feeling out of control, and you're making me feel things I can't explain. Lily, softly, you don't have to explain it, Victor. Not everything has to be controlled. Victor finally turned to face her, and for the first time, there was no business talk, no calculations. There was just them. Victor, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. Lily, looking into his eyes, then don't, Victor. But you have to decide what's more important. The world you've built, or the one we could build together. Victor's heart was pounding. This wasn't just about business anymore. This was about him, about what he truly wanted, what he was willing to risk. Lily had never been afraid to challenge him, to push him out of his comfort zone, and now he realized that she was the only person who had ever done that. Victor, I've built my life around power, control, but what if I'm wrong? What if all this, it's not enough? Lily, it's not, but we can change that. We don't have to keep living like this. Victor stepped closer to her, their faces inches apart. The tension was electric. This wasn't just a business deal anymore. It was something more personal, and it was scary. Victor whispering, I want more. Lily, I want you. Lily softly, then take the leap. Stop fighting it, Victor. Trust me. Victor couldn't focus on his work the next day. Every time he tried to concentrate, his mind wandered back to Lily. Her words from the night before lingered in his head, a sharp reminder that something had shifted between them. She was right, he wasn't used to feeling this way. He had built his life on control, on precision, on keeping everything within his grasp. But Lily, she had made him question everything. It wasn't just her beauty, though she was stunning. It wasn't just her intelligence, though it was remarkable. It was the way she challenged him, the way she saw through him. No one had ever dared to do that before, and no one had ever made him feel as alive as she did. He needed to talk to her again. He needed to figure out where they stood. When Lily arrived at his office that afternoon, she was more composed than usual. She entered the room with the same confidence, the same determination, but today there was something different in her eyes. She didn't look at him with the same professional distance. She wasn't cold, but she wasn't entirely warm either. She was guarded. Victor stood up as she walked in, feeling the tension between them immediately. It was palpable, a force in the room. Neither of them spoke at first, just exchanged a look that carried more weight than any words could. Victor, Lily, we need to talk. Lily, about what? Her voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. Victor, about us. About this tension. Lily crossed her arms and leaned against the doorframe. She wasn't about to make this easy for him. Lily, you're right. There's tension. But I think you know as well as I do that we're not just talking about the project anymore, are we, Victor? Pausing, no, we're not. But this Whatever this is, it's affecting everything. I can't ignore it anymore, and neither can you." Lily sighed, clearly frustrated. But there was a flicker of something in her eyes, something that made Victor's pulse quicken. Was it fear? Was it desire? "Lily, you don't get it, do you? I'm not like the other women who fall at your feet. I don't care about your money, your power, or your status. And I sure as hell don't need you to rescue me, Victor. I'm not trying to rescue you, Lily, but I can't keep pretending this isn't real. I'm not used to this too feeling this way. You've made me question everything. Everything I thought I knew. Lily, so what? You're saying you're not the same man you were before. Victor, no, I'm saying that maybe I don't want to be that man anymore." The words hung in the air between them. The walls Victor had built around himself for years, his fortress of control, power, and independence were beginning to crack, and for the first time he realized he didn't mind. Not when it came to her. "Victor, I can't control this. I can't control what I feel for you." Lily's eyes softened for the briefest moment, but she quickly masked it with the same guarded expression. "Lily, you don't need to control it. You need to feel it. And then you need to decide if you're going to let it in. Because I won't stay if this is just about your ego, Victor." Victor stepped closer to her, the distance between them shrinking. Every part of him screamed to step back, to hold on to the control he had always maintained. But something about Lily made him want to take the risk. For once, he didn't want to be the man who always had it all figured out. He just wanted to feel something real. "Victor, I've never been good at this, at feeling, at letting someone else in. But you've made me want to try, Lily." She looked at him, her lips slightly parted, her breath catching. The moment hung between them charged, raw, full of promise. "Lily, I can't promise you anything, Victor. I'm not like the others. I won't just fall into your world. But what I will promise is this. If we do this, we do it on equal ground. I won't lose myself for you. Victor, softly, I don't want you to lose yourself. Lily, I don't want to control you. I just want to be with you." There was a long pause. Neither of them spoke, the silence stretching out as the weight of their words settled in. Then, finally, Lily stepped forward, her gaze never leaving his. "Lily, then let's see where this goes. But don't expect me to just roll over. I won't give in easily." Victor, smiling slightly good, "I don't want you to." The room was filled with a palpable shift. They weren't just colleagues anymore. They weren't just two people trying to navigate a professional relationship. They were crossing a line neither of them could easily come back from. Victor watched as Lily turned to leave the room. But before she reached the door, she stopped and turned back to face him. Her eyes were still intense, but there was something softer there now, something real. "Lily, just so we're clear, Victor, I'm not here for your wealth or your power. I'm here because of you, not the man everyone else sees. The man who really wants something more than just control." Victor didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He knew exactly what she meant. And he knew with every fiber of his being that he didn't want to lose this chance. Not with her. Victor Blackwood stared out the window of his office. The city sprawled before him like a living, breathing organism. The lights of New York twinkled in the distance, but the glimmering lights didn't offer him the same thrill anymore. His empire, his wealth, his success, nothing mattered like it used to. Since Lily Adams had entered his life, everything felt different, and for the first time in years, he wasn't sure if he liked it. The attraction was undeniable, but so was the fear. Fear of losing control, fear of letting someone in, fear of the unknown. Yet, every time he thought about Lily, every time their eyes met, he couldn't deny the pull. She was more than just a brilliant consultant. She was a challenge he wasn't sure he was ready to accept. It had been a few weeks since their emotional conversation in the office. They had been working together on the project, but the underlying tension between them had only grown. Their professional relationship was thriving, but their personal connection was becoming more complicated by the day. Victor had tried to keep his distance. He had tried to keep things professional, but it wasn't working. Lily's presence, her intelligence, and the way she pushed him to his limits, he could no longer deny that she had become a central part of his life. And yet, the more he gave, the more he felt like he was losing himself. One afternoon, after a long meeting with clients, Lily walked into his office, holding a file in her hands. She looked as composed as always, but there was something in her eyes, something that told him she knew that they couldn't keep going like this. "Victor, Lily, you seem distant today." "What's going on, Lily?" Walking over to his desk, setting the file down. "I'm just tired, Victor. Tired of pretending like everything is fine. We both know what's going on here. This is no longer just about the project, is it?" Victor paused, his gaze locking with hers. For the first time in weeks, he felt a vulnerability he couldn't hide. "Victor, softly, you're right. It's not just about the project anymore. But I don't know how to handle this. I've spent my life building a world of control, and now I feel like it's slipping away. I don't know if I can trust myself." "Lily, you need to trust yourself, Victor, but you also need to trust me. I'm not here to destroy your world. I'm here to build something with you. But we can't keep ignoring what's between us." The room was silent for a moment as the words hung in the air. Victor's heart was pounding. He didn't know what he was afraid of more: the idea of losing control or the possibility of losing her. Lily was looking at him, not with judgment, but with something softer, something that made him feel like he could actually trust her, something that made him want to take the leap. "Victor, I've never been in a position like this before. I've always known what I wanted, but with you, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm making the right choice." Lily, taking a step closer, "You don't have to have all the answers, Victor, but you need to decide if you're willing to take a risk with me, a real one." Victor felt something shift within him. This was it. He had spent his life making calculated decisions, never stepping outside the safe boundaries he had built. But Lily had opened a door he hadn't known existed. Victor, leaning in, voice low, "What if I'm not ready to take that risk?" Lily, looking him in the eye, "Then we'll never know. But I'm not going to wait around while you make up your mind." Victor stared at her, the words she had spoken cutting through the air. She was right. He had been playing it safe for too long, hiding behind his power, his success. But what was the point of having all of it if he couldn't let himself experience real love? He had always feared losing control. But the truth was, he had been losing control for years. Losing control over the one thing that mattered most, his heart. And now, standing in front of Lily, he realized something. He didn't want to control her. He wanted to build a future with her. "Victor, I'm scared, Lily. Scared that I'll mess this up. Scared that I won't be able to give you what you need." Lily, smiling gently, "You don't have to be perfect, Victor. You just have to be real. And that's enough for me." Victor closed the distance between them. The fear that had held him back for so long was slowly dissolving. This was the leap. This was the moment. "Victor, I'm willing to try, Lily. I'm willing to trust you, and I'm willing to risk it all. Lily, good. Because I'm all in too. They stood there, inches apart, their hearts beating in sync. The leap had begun, and for the first time, they both knew that the risk was worth it. After their emotional breakthrough, things between Victor and Lily had settled into a new rhythm. They were no longer just colleagues working on a project, they were becoming something more. They spoke openly about their feelings, their fears, and the future they were starting to build together. But as with all things, reality had a way of crashing in. It was late one afternoon when the email arrived, the one that would change everything. Victor had been sitting in his office, reviewing financial reports, when his assistant handed him a thick envelope. He knew what it was before he even opened it, the final draft of the acquisition deal that would solidify his empire. This deal was everything. It was his ticket to further domination in the business world. It was everything he had worked for, and yet it felt different now. With Lily in his life, everything was changing. He opened the folder and scanned the pages. But his focus wasn't on the numbers. His thoughts were still with Lily, still with the promise he'd made to trust her, to trust them. The weight of the decision pressed down on him later that evening. After a day full of meetings and decisions, Victor called Lily into his office. She entered the room with the same poise and confidence, but Victor could see the shift in her demeanor. She was aware of the tension, aware that something big was coming. The moment she walked in, he handed her the acquisition deal. "Victor, I need your thoughts on this, Lily." Lily, taking the papers, scanning them. "This is big, too big. What's the catch?" Victor, pausing, avoiding eye contact. "The catch is that it's a risk, one that could make or break the company. The partner we're acquiring has asked for one major thing in return. I have to privatize the company, which would mean a massive shift in the way we operate. The board's already on board, but I need your opinion." Lily took a deep breath and set the papers down. The weight of the decision hung in the air. This wasn't just business, it was personal. Victor had built his company on trust, on doing what was best for his employees, but this deal would require a sacrifice. Lily, looking at him, "What are you afraid of, Victor?" Victor, looking up at her, "I'm afraid of losing everything I've built, and I'm afraid of losing you. This deal could put me on top of the business world for good, but it would also change everything we've been working towards. I don't know if I can give up the future we're building together for this." There was a long pause between them. Lily stood up and walked over to the window, looking out at the city, her mind racing. She knew the decision would affect them both. "Lily, I don't want you to lose your empire, Victor. But if you're asking me, I have to tell you, I don't want you to lose yourself in the process. This deal is a gamble, yes, but is it worth it? Will it make you happy?" Victor stood up, his hands gripping the edge of the desk. He had spent so long working for success, for power, but he had never once asked himself if he was happy. "Victor, I don't know. Lily, I want to win, but I don't know what winning means anymore. What if I'm doing all of this for the wrong reasons, Lily?" Turning to face him, "You need to ask yourself that, Victor. What do you want for yourself, for your future? Because the moment we start making decisions based on what we think we're supposed to do instead of what we truly want, that's when we start losing." Victor walked over to the window, joining her by the glass. The city lights twinkled below them, and for the first time, he didn't feel as though he was standing at the top of the world. The weight of the decision was too much. He could see the life he had built, but he could also see the future he had yet to build with Lily. Victor. Softly, I've spent so much of my life chasing this. The success, the control. But now, I'm not sure I even know what I'm chasing anymore. I'm scared, Lily. Scared that if I take this deal, I'll lose everything I've gained. But I'm also scared that if I don't take it, I'll regret it, Lily. Looking at him, it's not about the deal, Victor. It's about the choice you make. Whatever you decide, you can't forget what really matters. And what matters is you and me, not just the company, not just the numbers. You're at a crossroads, and I'll support whatever decision you make, but don't lose yourself in the process. Victor felt her words seep into him, cutting through the noise in his head. The gamble wasn't about business. It was about trust. Trusting himself. Trusting her. Trusting that they could build something real together, without sacrificing themselves in the process. Victor, taking a deep breath, turning toward her. I can't keep making decisions based on fear. You're right. This is bigger than just me. It's about us. I'll say no to the deal. It's time I stop letting everything else define me. Lily, smiling softly, relieved. Are you sure? Victor, yes. I trust you, Lily, and I trust us. They stood there, the weight of the moment hanging in the air. For the first time, Victor felt the freedom that came with choosing what truly mattered. As the decision was made, both Victor and Lily felt the shift. It was a huge risk, a massive gamble, but it was one that would define their future. They didn't have all the answers. They didn't know exactly where they were going, but they knew they were in it together. Lily, so. Now what? Victor, smiling, his eyes meeting hers now. We build something that matters, together. Victor Blackwood leaned back in his chair, his eyes focused on the screen in front of him, but his mind was miles away. He had made the decision to walk away from the acquisition deal that had been his dream for years. It was the hardest thing he'd ever done, but it was the right thing. Or so he kept telling himself. Everything had shifted since the night he and Lily Adams had made their decision. They were no longer just colleagues or business partners. There was something real between them now, something that went beyond the project, beyond the company. But as the days passed, Victor couldn't ignore the lingering doubt. He had walked away from the deal, but now he had to face the consequences. Would the board accept his decision? Would Lily really stay by his side? The following morning, Victor was called into a meeting with the board of directors. His heart raced as he entered the boardroom, the weight of their expectations pressing down on him. He had been the one to build this company, to take it to the heights it had reached, but now he was about to face the consequences of his bold decision. As he sat at the head of the table, he could feel the tension in the room. The board members were waiting for answers. Board member 1, coolly Victor. We've been following your lead for years, but this decision, walking away from the acquisition deal, that's something we never expected. Can you explain yourself? Victor, looking at the members, his voice steady. I've thought long and hard about this. The deal would have secured our position in the market, yes, but it would have come at the cost of something far more important. Our integrity. Board member 2, skeptical integrity. You've built this empire on results, Victor. This decision, this risk is reckless. Victor, sometimes we need to ask ourselves what we stand for. If we don't take that into account, then we lose more than just deals. We lose what makes us who we are. Victor felt the weight of their disapproval, but he didn't back down. He couldn't, not after everything he had come to understand over the past few weeks. Victor, I made the decision to prioritize our values over profits. If that's something you can't support, then maybe we need to reevaluate where we're headed." A long silence followed, the board members exchanging uncertain glances. Victor could feel the tension rise in the room. He had put everything on the line for this, but he couldn't regret it. He just needed to see if Lily would be by his side, if they could build something real. That evening, Victor stood at the balcony of his penthouse, looking out at the sprawling city. The view was still breathtaking, but tonight it felt different. The weight of the decision he had made earlier was still heavy on his shoulders. Just as he was lost in thought, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Lily. "I need to see you, now." His pulse quickened. He hadn't heard from her all day. He knew she had been busy with the project, but there was a certain distance between them that had begun to grow. He wasn't sure if it was just the pressures of work, or if it was something else, something deeper. Victor quickly texted back, asking her to meet him at the penthouse. His mind raced. What if she didn't understand his decision? What if she thought he had made a mistake? When Lily arrived, she didn't wait for him to greet her. She walked straight into the living room, her eyes sharp, scanning the space. She was silent, her face unreadable. Victor could feel the shift in the air between them. It was like they were walking on eggshells now. "Victor, Lily, we need to talk." "About everything." Lily, crossing her arms, "What's there to talk about, Victor? You made your decision. You walked away from the deal, and now we are both left to pick up the pieces." Her voice was colder than usual. There was something in her tone that made his stomach tighten. He had hoped that she would understand. "Victor, you don't get it. I had to make that choice. It wasn't about the deal anymore. It was about who I wanted to be, who I wanted to become." Lily, shaking her head, "And now we're stuck in this limbo. We're in a weird position, Victor. You've risked everything for something that may or may not work out, and I'm not sure I'm ready to put everything on the line with you." Victor stepped forward, his voice low but full of emotion. "Victor, I know you're scared. Lily, but I need you to understand. I'm doing this because I believe in us. I can't go back to the way things were. I don't want to live in a world where everything is about power and control. I want something more with you. I want to build this with you, if you'll let me." Lily looked at him for a long moment, her eyes softening. The walls she had put up around herself were slowly starting to come down. She took a deep breath and let it out slowly, her shoulders relaxing. "Lily, I'm scared, Victor. You know I've always been independent, and I can't give up my identity, my purpose, for anyone, not even for you. Victor, you don't have to give up anything. I'm not asking you to change who you are. I just need you to trust me, to trust us." For a long time, there was silence. The city lights flickered outside, but the room between them felt heavy, like the world outside was moving too fast. Lily finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "Lily, okay, Victor. I'm scared too, but I'm willing to trust you. I'm willing to try." Victor, with a relieved smile, "Thank you, Lily. That's all I need. We'll take it one step at a time." As they stood there, hand in hand, something shifted. They had crossed the line between business and personal, between fear and trust. And in that moment, they both knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. The days after Victor's decision to walk away from the acquisition deal were filled with a mixture of anticipation and dread. The company had been rocked by his unexpected move, and the board was less than thrilled. But what weighed even heavier on his mind was the growing uncertainty in his relationship with Lily. despite their emotional breakthrough, something was still missing. There was a gap that neither of them could bridge yet. The tension was no longer just about the deal, it was about trust, commitment, and fear of what might come next. Victor sat at his desk, staring blankly at the mountain of paperwork in front of him. The office was quiet, but his thoughts were loud, echoing with the decision he had made. His heart was still reeling from the risk he had taken, letting go of the deal and choosing Lily. But it was a risk he couldn't regret, or at least he didn't think he could. There was a knock on his door, and Lily stepped in, her expression serious, but her eyes betraying a hint of concern. "Victor, Lily, come in. I've been thinking about what happened last week, about the decision I made." "Lily, we need to talk, Victor. It's not just about the decision, it's about us. I've been thinking, too, and we're both walking a fine line here." Victor's stomach tightened. He had known this conversation was coming, but he didn't feel ready for it. "Victor, I know things have been tense, but I thought you understood why I did it. This was about us, about building something real, not just about the business." "Lily, I do understand, but it's not as simple as that, Victor. You made a big decision, and now we're both living with the consequences." Lily took a seat across from him, her gaze steady, but there was something in the way she looked at him that made Victor's chest tighten. They hadn't fully addressed what this decision meant for them, for their future together. "Lily, you can't expect me to just forget about the company. You know this deal was huge, Victor, and now I'm worried we've both just thrown it all away, Victor." Leaning forward, "We didn't throw anything away, Lily. We made a choice that I believe will bring us closer together. I chose you, and I chose a life with you, but I need you to trust that this will work out." Lily, shaking her head, "It's not just about trust, Victor. It's about the fact that I don't want to lose myself in this. I've spent so much time building my own career, my own independence, and now I'm feeling like everything is being pulled away from me. I don't know if I can do that, even for you." The silence that followed was thick with emotion, the weight of her words heavy in the air. Victor had thought they were past the fear of losing each other, but now it seemed that they were facing an entirely new battle about identity, independence, and what it meant to be with someone like him. As they sat in silence, the door to his office opened without a knock. The moment of tension was broken by a familiar voice. "Ethan, well, look who's still here." Victor's heart sank. Standing in the doorway was none other than Ethan Taylor, Lily's ex-fiancé, the man who had broken her heart, the man who had always made Victor feel like a second-rate player in the game of power. Ethan's presence was a reminder of everything Lily had fought to leave behind. Lily stiffened at the sight of Ethan, her face suddenly a mask of anger and discomfort. "Lily, Ethan, what the hell are you doing here?" Ethan, grinning, stepping into the room. "I came to talk to you. I knew you'd be here, running the show with Victor." Pauses, looking at Victor. "How's everything going with the big decision, Blackwood?" Victor could feel the blood rush to his face, a mixture of frustration and anger surging within him. Ethan always knew how to get under his skin. He was a reminder of everything Victor didn't have: real relationships, genuine connections. Victor, with a tight smile, "What do you want, Ethan? Turning his attention to Lily, "Just wanted to remind you of what you're walking away from. You think you're making the right choice, but you've always been one to make poor decisions when it comes to men. Haven't you learned anything from the past?" Lily's eyes flashed with anger, and she stood up, stepping between Ethan and Victor. Lily, I'm not doing this with you, Ethan. You don't get to come in here and tell me what's right for me. You've already ruined enough. Victor watched the exchange between them, his chest tightening. Lily was still haunted by her past, and Ethan was the ghost she couldn't seem to shake. But Victor wasn't going to let him tear them apart. Victor, Ethan, if you're here to stir the pot, you can leave. Ethan, laughing, stepping back. Fine, I'll go. But don't say I didn't warn you, Lily. You'll regret it. You always do. Ethan turned and left the room, but the damage had been done. Lily was visibly shaken, her eyes haunted by her past. Once again, Victor stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. Victor, he doesn't get to dictate your life, Lily. He's not in control anymore. Lily, her voice trembling, you don't understand, Victor. He was a part of my life for so long. I thought I was over it, but when he shows up like that, it all comes rushing back. I don't know how to let go of the past. Victor could see the vulnerability in her eyes. She was fighting with something deeper than just their relationship. Ethan's return had brought her old fears and doubts to the surface, and now Victor was the one who had to show her that she could trust him, and trust the future they were trying to build together. Victor, softly, I don't want you to carry that burden, Lily, but I can't fight your past for you. What I can do is fight for us, for the future we're building. You have to let go of the past, because I'm not going anywhere. There was a long pause before Lily finally nodded, the weight of his words sinking in. Lily, I know, but I'm scared. Victor, I'm scared of everything falling apart again. Victor, gently, we'll make it through. Lily, together. You don't have to do this alone. The days after Ethan's unexpected visit were filled with a strange kind of tension between Victor and Lily. The moment Ethan had walked into Victor's office, everything they had worked so hard to build seemed to come crashing down around them. Victor could see the remnants of Lily's fear, the way she stiffened when she saw Ethan, the way she withdrew into herself afterward. But what was more troubling for Victor was the doubt he saw in her eyes. Lily hadn't spoken much about Ethan since the confrontation, but Victor knew better than to assume everything was fine. The past had come rushing back, and now he had to prove that he could be the man she needed. As the week wore on, the fallout from the decision to cancel the acquisition deal continued to ripple through Blackwood Enterprises. The board had been furious when they heard about Victor's choice, and now they were pressuring him to make the deal happen again. Victor knew that the weight of his actions wasn't just affecting his relationship with Lily, it was affecting his entire company. The board was used to results. They didn't care about feelings, about integrity, they cared about profit. And now, with Victor backing away from a deal that could secure the company's future, the pressure was building. He knew he had to make a decision, and it had to come quickly. Victor, on the phone with his assistant, set up a meeting with the board for tomorrow morning. I'll be there. Assistant, understood, Mr. Blackwood. They're waiting for your decision. Victor leaned back in his chair, running his fingers through his hair. This was it. The decision he had made for love, had it been the right one? Or had he jeopardized everything? The next morning, Victor walked into the conference room, his jaw set and his shoulders squared. The board members were already seated, their faces a mix of disappointment and expectation. They were waiting for him to explain himself, to justify his choice, but Victor knew that no words would satisfy them. They wanted results, not explanations. Board member 1, Victor, we've been in this business for decades, and I've never seen anyone throw away such an important deal. Do you realize what this will mean for us? Victor, calmly, I do. But the deal would have cost us more than just money. It would have cost us our values. I'm not willing to sell out for success. I never was. Board member 2, this isn't about values, Victor. This is about business. You can't let your personal feelings get in the way of what's best for the company. Victor, looking around at the board. If I didn't make the decision I did, I wouldn't have been able to live with myself. I understand the risk. But if we don't stand by our principles, what are we really building here? Victor's words were met with silence. The tension was thick, but he didn't flinch. This was the ultimate test, whether he would stay true to himself or give in to the pressure. Victor, I'm not going back on my decision. We'll find another way. But we're not selling out. Board member 3, sighing, you realize this could cost you your position, don't you? Victor, leaning forward, I'll take the consequences. But I'm doing what I believe is right. Victor didn't wait for their response. He stood up, his decision made. He knew this was a crossroads, not just for the company, but for his future. He had taken the gamble of love, and now it was time to see if it would pay off. That evening, Victor arrived home later than usual. The weight of the day had settled on him, and the silence in the penthouse felt more oppressive than ever. Lily wasn't home when he walked in, but he knew she would be back soon. He sank into the couch, staring at the glass of scotch in his hand, but it didn't bring the comfort he expected. He thought about the board meeting, about the decision he had made to stand his ground, and he thought about Lily. He couldn't keep pretending that their relationship wasn't affected by everything happening around them. He could feel her pulling away, the uncertainty in her eyes whenever she looked at him. Victor had risked his career, his company, for a chance at something real with her. And now he had to show her that it wasn't just about the business. It was about them. The sound of the door opening pulled him from his thoughts. Lily stepped inside, her expression tense. She closed the door quietly behind her and looked at him. Victor knew the moment had come. Victor, Lily, I know things have been tough, but I need you to know that I made the right decision. I believe in us. I'm not going back on it. Lily, pauses Victor, it's not just about the decision. It's about what this means for us. You're putting everything on the line for me, and I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. Victor, I'm not losing anything. I'm gaining everything that matters. You matter to me. Lily's eyes softened, but the uncertainty still lingered. She walked over to him, sitting beside him on the couch. Lily, softly, but what if I can't? Be the woman you need me to be, Victor. What if I can't fit into your world without losing myself? Victor, taking her hand, you don't have to fit into my world. Lily, we'll build our world, together. I don't need you to be anyone other than who you are. There was a long pause as they sat there, hands intertwined, both silently acknowledging the gravity of what was at stake. They had both taken a risk, but they had also found something real in the process. Lily looked at Victor, her gaze softening as she squeezed his hand. She knew he was scared, but she could see the honesty in his eyes. For the first time, she realized that this wasn't just about business. It was about trust, about choosing each other in a world full of uncertainty. Lily, I'm scared too. Victor, but I'm willing to take the leap with you. I just need to know you're really all in. Victor, gently, I'm all in. Lily, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. With that, a new chapter began for them, one filled with challenges, but also promise. They didn't know what the future held, but they were ready to face it together. Victor leaned back in his office chair, staring out the window at the sprawling New York skyline. The city was alive with energy, but today it felt distant. The decision to walk away from the acquisition deal had come with its consequences. The board was still reeling from his choice, and some were questioning if he was fit to lead the company going forward. Victor had made the right decision, but it didn't feel that way. He had chosen to follow his heart, to follow Lily, but the weight of that choice was becoming heavier by the day. The business was on the line, and his position as CEO was now under threat. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a knock on his office. Door. Victor, come in. Lily, walking in, closing the door behind her. We need to talk. Lily's voice was calm, but there was an intensity behind it that made Victor sit up straighter. He had a feeling this conversation wasn't going to be easy. Victor, what's going on? Lily, sitting down across from him. I've been thinking a lot about everything, about us, and about the decisions we've made. Victor's stomach tightened. He didn't know where this conversation was headed, but he knew one thing. He wasn't prepared for the possibility of losing her. Victor, I know things haven't been easy. The company's been under pressure, and I don't want that too. Come between us. Lily, it's not just the company, Victor. It's everything. You've made decisions based on what's best for us, but I'm starting to feel like I'm the one pulling away. Victor's heart dropped. Pulling away. He had made his biggest sacrifice for their relationship, but the fear of losing everything was starting to creep in. Victor, leaning forward. Lily, please, you're not pulling away. I just need to know that you're still here, that you still believe in us. Lily, I do, but I'm scared, Victor. I'm scared that we've both sacrificed too much. I'm scared that, in the end, it won't be enough. Victor could see the uncertainty in her eyes. He could feel it toothed out, the fear. They were both standing on the edge of something huge, and neither of them knew if they could make it through. The days following their conversation were filled with a strange tension. Lily was still there, still by his side, but Victor could sense that she was holding back. The weight of the decisions they had made was starting to take its toll. Victor threw himself back into work, hoping that he could push through the challenges ahead. But the pressure only increased. The board had made it clear that if the company didn't start seeing results soon, they would start questioning his leadership. One evening, just when Victor thought he could finally breathe, the phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID. It was from an unknown number, but something told him that this was the call he had been dreading. Victor, hello. Voice on the other end. Mr. Blackwood, this is Detective Harris. We need to talk. This is about Lily Adams. Victor's stomach turned. He knew instantly that this wasn't good. The mention of Lily's name in a police context could only mean one thing. Something from her past was catching up to her. He had never asked her about her past in detail, but the more he learned about her, the more he realized there was a lot she had been hiding. Victor, forcing himself to remain calm. What's this about? Detective Harris, there's a matter we need to discuss regarding her past relationships. I'm afraid it's more complicated than what she's told you. Victor felt his heart race. Was Lily in danger? Had he let her get too close to him without fully understanding what was going on in her life? Was he being dragged into something darker than he could handle? Victor arrived at Lily's apartment later that evening, his mind racing with 1,000 questions. When she opened the door, he could see the shock on her face. She wasn't expecting him, But when she saw the look in his eyes, she knew something was wrong. "Lily, Victor, what's going on? You look pale. Victor, we need to talk about you, about your past." Lily, a quiet gasp. "What are you talking about?" Victor, stepping inside. "I just got off the phone with Detective Harris. He says there's something I don't know about you, something that's come back to haunt us." Lily froze. For a moment, Victor could see the walls she had spent so long building come crashing down. She didn't look at him, didn't speak. The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. "Lily," her voice trembling, "Victor, I didn't want you to find out like this, but I couldn't hide it anymore." "Victor, you could have told me, Lily. I need to know what's going on. Lily, I didn't want you to get involved. I didn't want you to see me as just another person with a dark past." Victor stepped closer, his hand reaching for hers. "Victor, I'm not going to leave you, Lily, but you need to trust me. Tell me what's going on." Lily finally met his eyes, her voice barely above a whisper. She told him everything, the relationship she had tried to escape, the abusive past she had never spoken of, and the people who were still hunting her. "Victor, why didn't you tell me this before?" "Lily, because I didn't want to burden you. I thought if I kept it hidden, I could keep it from affecting us. But it's too late for that now, isn't it?" Victor, holding her hands tightly, "No, it's not too late. Whatever this is, we're facing it together. I'll help you, Lily. We'll figure it out." The conversation left them both drained, but in that moment, Victor realized something he had been missing. He had always been the one to make decisions, to be in control. But now, he was letting go of the need for control, and instead, offering Lily his full support, his full trust. "Victor, we'll handle this together, Lily. No more hiding. No more secrets." Lily, softly, looking up at him, "I don't know what the future holds, but I'm ready to fight for it." "For us?" Victor nodded, his heart lighter than it had been in a long time. He didn't know what would come next, but he knew one thing: he would fight for her. Victor stood in front of the large windows of his penthouse, gazing at the city below. The skyline of New York glittered in the distance, but tonight there was no joy in it. His mind was consumed by thoughts of the risk he had taken, of the choices he had made, and of the consequences that were beginning to surface. The decision to walk away from the acquisition deal had not been easy. Lily had stood by his side, but the board had not been as forgiving. The pressure from his business world was building, and he knew that at some point something had to give. He had fought to protect his values, but he was starting to wonder, was he sacrificing too much? Victor heard a knock at the door, and his thoughts were interrupted. "Victor, come in." The door opened, and Lily walked in, her expression serious. There was a tension in the air between them, a quiet unease that neither of them had fully addressed. She had been distant over the past few days, her mind clearly preoccupied with everything that had been happening. "Victor, Lily, what's going on?" Lily, avoiding his gaze. "I've been thinking about everything. You made a huge decision, Victor, but I'm starting to wonder if it's going to cost us more than just the deal." Victor, sighing, "I know, and I've been wondering the same thing, but I had to do it. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't." "Lily, I get that, Victor, but I need you to understand. This is bigger than us. There are forces at play here that we don't even see yet." Victor's chest tightened. He knew she was right. The consequences were already starting to unfold. The business was under pressure, but what really scared him was the unseen danger, the forces that were circling around them, waiting for the right moment to strike. The next morning, Victor received a phone call that made his blood run cold. It was from his lawyer, an old friend who had been with him through every major deal. "Victor, what's going on?" Lawyer: "Victor, we've got a problem. One of your old competitors, Jeffrey Wallace, is back in the game. He's been looking into your company, and he's not playing nice. We think he's planning something big, something that could ruin everything you've built." Victor, feeling his pulse quicken: "What do you mean, ruin everything? He's been out of the picture for years." "Why now?" Lawyer: "He's angry about the way you took control of the market years ago. We're not sure exactly what his next move is, but we need to be ready." Victor, "Get everything you can on him. I'll handle it." The call ended, and Victor was left standing in the middle of his penthouse, the walls closing in around him. Jeffrey Wallace was an old rival, someone who had tried to take Victor down years ago. But Victor had won that battle, or so he thought. He hadn't realized that Wallace was still lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right time to make his move. Later that afternoon, Victor invited Lily to his office to discuss the situation. He knew she had been keeping her distance, but this was something that required her input, her expertise. When Lily arrived, she was more serious than usual. She didn't wait for him to say anything, just walked straight to the desk and sat down. The folder she had brought with her. "Victor, Lily, you don't look like yourself today." "What's going on, Lily?" "Sitting down, I've been thinking about the project, about everything, and I think you're right. We've been too focused on the acquisition deal. There's a bigger problem here." "Victor, what do you mean, Lily?" "I think you've underestimated what's coming next. The way the business world is reacting to you now, it's a different game, and you've made yourself a target. Jeffrey Wallace is a serious threat." Victor could see the concern in her eyes. She was right. Everything he had worked for was suddenly in jeopardy. The past he thought was behind him had resurfaced with a vengeance. "Victor, I didn't think he'd come after me again. I thought he was done. But now we have to prepare for whatever he's planning." Lily, looking at him: "Victor, I know you think you can handle this on your own, but I'm telling you, we need to act fast. Wallace is unpredictable. He's been quietly moving pieces into place for a long time. Victor, I'll deal with him. You don't have to get involved in this." Lily, shaking her head: "You can't do this without me. We're in this together. I'm with you, but you have to trust me." Victor hesitated. He didn't want her involved in the mess his past had created, but deep down, he knew that Lily's strength and insight were exactly what he needed. They were in this together, whether he liked it or not. "Victor, finally, okay, we'll handle this together." Over the next few days, Victor and Lily worked tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable storm. They strategized, gathered information, and made sure the company was in the best position to defend itself against Wallace's potential attack. But it wasn't just business. Their relationship had shifted. The more time they spent together, the more Victor realized that Lily had become his anchor. She kept him grounded, even when everything around him was falling apart. Late one night, as they were finishing up work in the office, Victor looked at her with a new understanding. She was more than just a colleague. She was his partner, in every sense of the word. "Victor, Lily, I don't know what I'd do without you. This everything that's happening, I don't think I could have handled it on my own." Lily, looking up at him, her voice soft: "You don't have to do it alone, Victor. We're in this together, remember?" Victor smiled, the weight of the past few weeks lifting slightly. He knew they were ready for whatever came next. Together, they could face anything. The pressure was mounting. Every day brought a new challenge, and every step forward felt like it came with 2 steps back. Victor had made the decision to walk away from the acquisition deal, and now he was facing the fallout. The board was furious, the company's stock was plummeting, and Jeffrey Wallace was still lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And yet, through it all, Lily remained by his side. She had proven herself invaluable, not just as a business partner, but as someone who was deeply invested in their future. However, the weight of everything, the mounting business pressures, the stakes of their relationship, and the ghosts of their past was beginning to take its toll on them both. It was a late night when Victor stood in his office, looking out over the city, his mind racing. The company's future was hanging by a thread. He had received multiple reports from his legal team about Wallace's moves, how he was trying to buy up stocks, how he was making aggressive public statements to undermine Blackwood Enterprises. Everything was coming to a head. Victor's phone buzzed. It was an urgent message from his assistant. "Mr. Blackwood, the board requests your presence immediately. The situation has escalated." Victor sighed, running his hand through his hair. The pressure was suffocating. He had made a promise to Lily, but the business was on the verge of collapse. He couldn't afford to lose control now. When he entered the boardroom, the tension in the air was palpable. The board members were seated at the long table, their faces grim. Board member 1. "Looking up, Victor, we've given you time to make your case, but this has gone too far. Wallace is making moves we can't ignore. We need a decision now. We can't risk losing the company because of your personal choices." Victor, staring them down, "I didn't make this decision lightly, and I won't let anyone dictate my choices. But I'm not going back to the deal. We'll find another way." Board member 2, leaning forward, voice sharp, "And how do you plan to do that, Victor? Do you think you can fight off Wallace and keep this company afloat without compromising? This isn't about your ego, it's about our survival." Victor, calm but firm, "This isn't about ego. This is about doing what's right for the company, for the people who've worked here. I won't sell out, and I'm asking you to stand with me." The silence that followed was deafening. The board members exchanged looks, their eyes filled with doubt, frustration, and disappointment. They had never seen Victor so defiant, and they weren't sure how to handle it. "Victor, finally, if you can't support me, I'll make the hard choice, but I'm not compromising my values." The room was still. The decision had been made, but the outcome was uncertain. Later that evening, Victor returned to his penthouse, the weight of the day pressing down on him. He couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in, that no matter how hard he fought, it might not be enough. Lily hadn't said much during the day. She had been silent, her eyes filled with the same uncertainty he felt. When she entered the apartment, Victor was sitting on the couch, staring blankly ahead. "Lily, softly, Victor, we need to talk." Victor, looking up, "I know. It's been a hell of a day." Lily, sitting down next to him, "No, it's more than that. I can feel it, Victor. The stress, the weight of all this. We're barely holding it together, and you know it." Victor ran his hand through his hair. Frustration building. "Victor, I can't just sit here and do nothing, Lily. This is my life's work. I can't let it fall apart because of a decision I made. I promised you we'd get through this together, but I feel like I'm losing everything. The company, you, me, Lily, Victor. I'm not going anywhere, but this, this is different." This isn't just about the company anymore. It's about us. We're drowning in this, and I don't know if we can pull ourselves out of it. Victor's chest tightened. He wanted to tell her that everything would be fine, but he didn't have the answers. He couldn't promise her anything when he wasn't sure of the outcome himself. Victor, I'm not giving up on this, Lily, but I don't know how much longer I can keep going like this. The company's on the edge. Wallace is pushing, and the board is losing faith in me. Lily, reaching for his hand. Victor, you're not alone in this. But you have to ask yourself if it's worth it. Is it worth losing yourself for this? Is it worth losing us? Victor looked at her, the weight of her words settling deep in his chest. He had made a promise to her to fight for what was real. But was it worth it? Was she worth it? The next day, as Victor stood in front of the conference room, waiting for the board to assemble once again, he felt like everything was coming to a head. His business, his future, his relationship with Lilliet was all at risk. The pressure was overwhelming. His fear was palpable, but he knew there was no turning back now. He walked into the room, ready to face whatever came next. Victor, I'm making one last decision. I'm not going to play by the rules anymore. We're going to take risks. We'll find another way, and we'll do it together. All of us. There was a long silence. The board members looked at each other, unsure of what to say. But for the first time, Victor felt in control. He wasn't just fighting for his company anymore. He was fighting for his life, for his love, for something real. That evening, as the board meeting concluded, Victor returned home, expecting to find a room full of tension. But instead, Lily was waiting for him, sitting on the couch. She didn't say a word as he walked in. She just looked at him, her eyes filled with something Victor hadn't seen in a long time. Faith, Victor, sitting beside her. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm not giving up on us. Lily, smiling softly. I never thought you would. But now we both have to decide what we're willing to risk, together. Victor took her hand, feeling the weight of the decision he had made, and for the first time in a long while, he felt like they could face whatever came next together. Victor sat at his desk, staring out the window at the sparkling lights of New York. The city was alive, just as it always had been. But for the first time in his life, it felt like he was finally alive. His decisions, his struggles, everything had led him to this moment. He had chosen Lily, chosen love, and for once, he wasn't afraid of what lay ahead. The path had been anything but easy. He had fought against the world, against the very nature of his own success, and had come face to face with the cost of his choices. But in the end, he knew one thing: he would never go back to the life he had before. His phone buzzed on the desk, snapping him back to the present. It was a message from Lily. "Are you ready? I'm waiting for you." Victor smiled as he stood up from the desk. It had been a long journey, but they had both come so far. He walked to the door of his penthouse, stepping out into the bright city lights, his heart full of anticipation. He didn't know exactly what the future held, but he knew that he was no longer walking it alone. Lily was waiting for him, standing at the balcony, looking out at the skyline. She looked just as she had the first time they met, confident, strong, and yet there was something softer in her eyes now. Something that showed she was no longer hiding, no longer holding back. Victor, walking up to her, softly, "I thought I had everything figured out before, but now I realize I was just holding on to the wrong things." Lily, smiling, turning to face him, "I know what you mean. But now we know what really matters, don't we?" "Victor, yay, and it's you." They stood there, in the quiet of the night, the city humming softly around them. For the first time, Victor felt like he had everything he needed right here with her. Lily, so, what happens now? Victor, taking her hand now, we start over. Together, we take risks, face the challenges, and build something real. Lily's smile widened, and for the first time, there was a sense of peace between them. The uncertainty of the future, the fear of what might come, they were ready to face it together. Victor, I don't need to be the man who controls everything anymore. I just need to be with you, and that's enough. Lily, gently, and I need you to know, Victor, that we're building this together. I'm not just following your lead. I'm here because I believe in us. As they stood together, hand in hand, looking out over the lights of the city, Victor realized that this was the leap he had been afraid to take all along. It wasn't about business. It wasn't about control. It was about trust, partnership, and the courage to choose. Love, Victor, whispering, "This is just the beginning, Lily. The beginning of something real. Something we'll build together. No matter what, Lily, softly together." And as they stood there, the world around them seemed to fall away. They were no longer bound by the expectations of the past, no longer fighting for things that didn't matter. They had each other, and that was enough.